Hey guys, Enkidu here. So it's been well over a year since I made a video, but I have recently been playing 3.7 in the Legion League, and I wanted to show you a character that I started liking quite a bit. So he is a Slayer, and we're using the Voidforge unique sword. So I had never used this sword, but it actually adds a lot of really cool stuff that we're going to go over. But first, a little look at the gear is we're using a 6-link lore weave, and the rest of it's just rare garbage. So just a Voidforge 6-link lore weave, which is by no means necessary, but the added physical, elemental, and then the max resistances of 78 I thought were quite good. As well as they're pretty cheap this league. They're only about 2 or 3x for a 5-link, and you throw some fusings at it, and then it's no issue whatsoever. Actually, it probably went down in the last little bit. So anyway, I started using these Curse on Hit Elemental Weakness gloves, since the Voidforge is either the extra % damage there, the 300%, is either Firelight or Cold. And Elemental Weakness will give you increased damage with all. I got lucky with a Lab enchant for another 8% of the Rainbow Pen Firelight Cold. And it's really interesting because my tooltip says 48.9, but that's technically only 90% of my damage. So what do I mean by that? Ice Crash is going to convert 50% of your physical to cold. And then I have that and that, which converts another 40%. So 90% of the physical damage of this weapon, scaled off the other physical sword nodes and crit nodes, is going to be converted to elemental. And that's what that is. That's what that 48,000 is. The gain 300% of weapon physical damage is extra damage of a random element. Firelight Cold sort of roll that happens every time you attack actually does not reflect in the tooltip whatsoever. So that's something I had no idea about. There's no way for the game to show it in its current state, or at least they chose not to, the developers. So the interesting part is you get to just sort of extrapolate, well, what's 300% on top of 48k? And that's, just about 200,000 a hit. And there's no particular penetration except for things like the Wise Oak. And here's why the Wise Oak is interesting. It's during Flask Effect, damage penetrates 14% resistance of each element for which your uncapped elemental resistance is the highest. So that's what that is, 116, 116, and 116. That's the uncapped. I would prefer if they called it the overcapped. I feel like uncapped is undercapped. It just, I don't know. It's not exactly the best word choice for the developers, but still really interesting. So this is far and away not a diverse character. And why Ice Crash? Because the damage effectiveness is 235 and the AoE is quite large. So you could just map along, and while it's far from fast, the area of effect is quite nice. So gem links I'm running: Ice Crash, Melee Fizz, Elemental Damage with Attacks, Ruthless, Pulverize, and Fortify. So the interesting part is literally like 3 years ago, players were complaining about the power creep and how every single gem, support gem that GGG would come out with was a more multiplier. And that's literally all anyone runs nowadays. And now you actually have choices for more multipliers. So this is a new gem. And it's really interesting. So it's a less multiplier for attack speed, but in that we're already attacking kind of slow, it's not that big of a deal. 0.53 to 0.63. That's 1/10 of an attack a second. It's really not much, but you're gaining more melee area damage, which is a more negative multiplier, and more AoE. And then Fortify, they actually added the supported skills deal more melee damage. So more melee damage, and the bottom line of the Voidforge there, deal no non-elemental damage, means that all the physical damage that you get from gear and from scaling, like even the flat physical from Lore Weave gets added in, all of that gets converted to an element at 300%. If I wasn't using Ice Crash, which is already a conversion skill, I would have less damage. The only way you would not be running a conversion skill and be running Voidforge is if you were using the points that you would otherwise spend to get into more powerful nodes in the tree. For example, since they reworked the bottom of the tree here, some of these nodes are just ridiculous, like 24, 4, and another melee range, 40% crit, 20% multi. They just put so much sword damage in the tree, but I'm looking at it and I'm already a 79, and I'm still working my way over here for this. I gotta go over here and get that wed, and then I'm next to 5% life nodes that I haven't even taken yet. There's a 4%er there, but it's, I have no AoE minus these couple of nodes and the pulverized gem, and I just wanted to show you guys a brief map. Alright, before we go. So, and then the auras I'm running are also very, very good. So we have Blood and Sand, Flesh and Stone, Stone Golem, Herald of Ash, and then Blood Rage increased duration with Leap Slam, Faster Attacks, Blood Magic, and Endurance Charge on melee stun, since Leap Slam automatically 100% of the time stuns now. So the auras we run are Blood and Sand, and I run these in almost exclusively Sand mode, is more area of effect. And this gives blind within the radius you could see there on the screen around your character. Precision, which grants flat accuracy and a little bit of crit. And then Herald of Ash, just because I liked the ignites. And the really funny part is I think the ignites wasn't necessarily scaling off the fizz, although it gives me that. It's just base burning damage is 25% of overkill damage. So when I hit for 200k, or especially when I crit for 200k, all of a sudden 25% of the damage that got wasted, because that's what the overkill damage is if a monster only had 100,000 life, 25,000 spill damage is then going to be ignited in the radius of the ice crash. So it helps with the clear quite a bit, especially if you have some smaller monsters at the very edge of your screen there. So I don't know why, and yesterday before I logged off I was at 100 and 100, but there's currently a bug in Path of Exile where if you don't have 100 and 100 accuracy, you miss about 20% of your attacks. So I don't know how. I wonder if they pushed a hotfix that changed the mechanic again. I'm not sure, but this was at 100 yesterday and I never missed an attack. I wonder exactly what happened, but we'll find out. So anyway, let's go do a estuary here. Make sure we just don't have Ellie Reflect, because that's really going to be the only thing that will destroy us. And go do a map. I'll show you guys what it's like. So we activate our Blood Rage and just speed potion our way through. Ice crash once and walk away. You don't need to leap slam fortify yourself like you would everywhere else. So it's useful to be able to just go along and not have to rely on leap slam, or it's been 3 seconds, I have to run away from this fight just to leap slam. And when you want some DPS, hit 3 and 4 to activate Lion's Roar and your pen. You see the ignite there doing some pretty good work on that guy. And this is a small encounter here. And you see, one of those was very obviously a crit. Bubble guys are always a little bit of a trouble. Get your charges up, and you can map pretty fast with this, as you can see, and not have much trouble. So just want to go spank the bosses real quick. And that's a dead map boss of 75 as a 79 character, which is not shabby at all. It's, not exactly the most defensive character. If I stand still for more than a few seconds, I'll absolutely get just walloped, but I mean, it's quite good for fast mapping, and considering, I gotta kill the bottom, considering just how cheap a Voidforge, or not a Voidforge, a Voidforge is now. Starforge is incredibly expensive because everyone and their mother's running Cyclone, which looks like a great skill, but I want to do something a little different. And I was just floored when I saw the AoE of this, because years ago GGG really crapped on the AoE range of a lot of melee skills, and I felt like that was a shame, because they didn't all need to be nerfed the way that they were. It wasn't that necessary for them to absolutely nerf into the ground all the melee skills and make them so that they were so small. But this is almost like a little bit of a throwback character. Like, it's been a few years since you were able to do anything like this in melee and have it feel good. and I liked the character a lot, so I wanted to share it with you guys. Anyway, so I'll probably come out with another video. I might keep playing it. I'll probably take my time with this character. Oh, and the primary reason I was not switching from Blood and Sand to Flesh and Stone is I was just starved for flask slots. So Lion's Roar, Wise Oak, Speed Flask, and then Freeze, and then a Bleed. And I feel like you still need 2 flasks in this day and age. I know just about everyone says that they really only want 1, and they can only fit 1. I still feel like 2 is good. A Long Heal Freeze and an Insta-Heal Bleed. I feel good about that. But anyway, that's about it, guys, and I'll see you later. Thanks.